What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for tuning in to another video. Right behind me we have the CRX, which has been the main focus of these last couple of videos. If you saw the track video a couple of days ago, actually it's about a week and a half ago now, you actually saw that there was a lot of carnage on the back of the car. If you look at the pictures that I uploaded on Instagram at Slowintegra, then you can actually see, due to the suspension, the front end lifts a lot, the rear squats like crazy, and the rear tire wrinkles, meaning that it's actually hooking while the front is spinning, and it just destroys the rear axles of the car, which it shows us two things. We need to stiffen up the suspension, not only in the rear, but do some modifications to the front as well. And it also shows us that the viscous coupler and the pin differential is doing what it's meant to do. The clutches are no longer something that can be slipped, and it's now fully engaged pretty much. So we're super happy that it's performing like that. The axles are something that I have warranty under. If the diff would have blown up, I have another differential in pieces, but something I can assemble right over there. The car is made to test. Like, I didn't make this car to be a Superman or nothing. I built this car so that you guys can see me building it, and you guys can see what breaks, and you guys can see how to fix it. So I'm gonna start jacking the car up right now and actually taking the rear axles out. I already loosened the 32mm nut on the axle on both sides. Obviously, we're gonna be using a jack as well as jack stands, making sure that we have nice safety on everything. And yeah. Since the diff already is, it's still in place, but the axles are broken. Not have to do too much removal of the differential, although since we're gonna be installing fresh axles afterwards, we'll probably still lower it. If you guys see in the older videos when I'm actually installing everything, the best way for me to do it was to actually take the wheels off, so then I can pull the trailing arm. Actually, I think I kept the trailing arm in place. What I was doing was lowering the differential down. I haven't done it with this drive shaft yet, but I think it'll be the same. I'll just take off the main two bolts right there, as well as the bolts for the brace on top, which you can see that brace right there. And just lower the differential down as I'm pulling the axles out of the side. And that should be easy to take out, especially since they are broken already. This one is still in the joint, that one is out of the joint. But I can start lowering that right now as soon as I lift the car a little bit. And yeah, it should be pretty easy to do. I am recording on my phone right now, but I have this nice light on the side. So once I lift the car and everything, it should be pretty easy to see on there. All right, so we have the car up in the air as well as with the jack stands and whatnot, nice and secure. I just have a little drain pan underneath the actual differential since we are gonna pop off the axle right now. Given that this side is completely out of the boot, as well as the shaft broken, I already have the nut off on the spindle side, or in this case, the trailing arm side, so this should just come right out. Let me see. Actually, oh, nice. Just barely misses, just barely doesn't clear the coilover. So I'm definitely gonna have to probably move the lower control arm or take the bolt off and pull the trailing arm out. As for the axle side, I don't think, if any, much fluid's gonna come out, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. Let me see. Wow, that is really wedged in there. All right, so I ended up getting an actual real pry bar. Actually, I think it's technically called a ball joint separator, or like a pickle fork or something. It's pretty tight coming out, but just coming out, there we go. Doesn't look like anything broke on the inner splines. So far, so good right there. I'm sorry, is my head blocking the camera? I don't know. So far, that looks fine. So just set this off to the side. Like I said, I'm gonna have to move some stuff to get the take the outer shaft out, but I think that should be as easy as pulling the bottom of the control arm. I don't know if that'll show you right there. I think I'm gonna take this off right here and just pull the trailing arm forward a little bit. And worst case scenario, I just take this out and move the coilover out of the way. I don't remember exactly how I did it last time, but we'll try it out. There we go. Wow, look at that. Look at that carnage. Holy crap. Wow, let me, I think I'm gonna take the boot off and actually show what exactly broke. I'll probably do that on both sides. But yeah, that came out pretty easy. Just loosen the lower control arm right there and pull the trailing arm forward. You saw me do it. And now I got great grease on my rotor. Great job. Just gotta clean up all the grease from behind the trailing arm. And that should be good on that part. All right, given that this side is basically out of the joint because it broke, this should be pretty simple to take out. Just gotta knock it out from the inner, and then I can push it back from the outer. That should be pretty simple. I'm probably gonna have to remove this bolt right here like I did on the other side. Here, I pointed at it, you guys weren't seeing. I was talking about the same lower ball joint, not ball joint, but lower trailing arm bolt, which is right here. Just loosen this real quick. Alright, that bolt is out. Bottom is free. I'm just gonna knock it out from the differential part itself. Should I have pulled it out? No, it's alright. There we go. Oh man, I hope I didn't mess up that seal pulling it out. I gave it a little tear. Oh well. And there we go. That axle is out and dead. Here I have them both side by side. This being the driver's side. It's broken on the shaft itself on the outer part. This one is broken on the shaft itself for the inner part, for the passenger side. So here you can see that basically like just straight broke right there. I think that it was because of the suspension travel. It just gave too much of an aggressive axle angle and then just binded. And then by binding so much, I think it just snapped in half. I'm gonna cut the boots open right now, and it's gonna be a mess since obviously there's a bunch of axle grease inside. But I'll cut them open and see if we can see anything. On this one right here, you can see since the passenger side broke so aggressively, then the outer of it lost like the outer bearing and whatnot. Obviously the major failure was on the inner part, but I think that was a byproduct of it. Yeah, I'm gonna cut them open right now and then show you what I find inside. All right, so I have the boots cut out from the passenger side, the one that had the most carnage, the one that actually has the shaft that was laying on the floor. So this is clean where it broke off, the shaft going into the, what side did it break? It broke, man, I'm forgetting. So here is the other side of what actually snapped off. If I can focus, clean snap right there. You see this often with like cheap material axles because they just snap clean on a weak spot. On like high horsepower axles or whatever, like on OEM sometimes too, or like DSS when they're super high horsepower. When they break, you actually see a lot of twisting before it actually snaps. So this one just like sheared straight off, which is kind of crazy. Another thing I found kind of interesting was here's the little bearings. And if you've ever taken apart an axle, sorry, it's having trouble focusing on all the grease and everything, but if you've ever had an axle apart or you rebuild them or whatever, you notice that there's these little, like, it looks like a tripod on it almost. And normally there'll be like not roller bearings, but there'll be bearings on the ends of them. The parts that actually go into the axle cup. This one right here, they're not only really small compared to a front wheel drive one, but these just pull right off, which I just did that with one hand and the other one just fell off by itself. So you see the axles don't have any like clip or anything that holds them on. Now this is an aftermarket O'Reilly's axle. I don't know if that's just because they're aftermarket or what. Here's like a front wheel drive axle for comparison. So you try to pull it off. There is a clip on the outside, which is what I'm spinning right there, that you basically have to pry off before you do so. If you want to get those bearings off, you have to pry that off. And I feel like that just kind of strengthens it out when, in this case, for example, if the axle was pulling out of the cup, not to say that it would be something that you'd want to happen and survive afterwards. But if it were to happen, it was pulling out of the cup, having those little clips right there would prevent the bearings from coming out. Because like I said, I just pulled off the 2 bearings right there. One I pulled off, the other one fell. But on the part of it that actually went to the outside of the actual axle, one just fell right there. The other 2 should be somewhere. I'm trying to find it right there. Oh, I'm not sure in which boot exactly it was. But anyways, I'm not going to get too dirty. I'm wearing gloves for a reason. But yeah, that right there just lost the bearings. So we've found out what it was for the passenger side, just snapped off very clean. I am going to take apart the driver's side. On the inner part of the driver's side, this is just one solid piece. Nothing feels like it's broken right there. I could be mistaken, but I don't think anything is broken there. I'm just gonna cut the boot around this side right here. And if I'm correct, it'll be the same type of clean snap, just like this one was right there. All right, like I said, I just got done showing you the passenger side right now. Here is the driver's side, and like I said, it's gonna be the same exact type of failure. Clean cut right there, and clean cut right there. So this is the part that goes to the actual outer. This is the shaft and the inner cup. Fine on there, shock on the outer. What's interesting on this one is that all the bearings are still intact right there. So it wasn't any failure on that side of it. Looks like it just caused too much shock right there. What I think, and I'll explain right now for you guys, I'm not exactly sure on the angle if it would go up or down with the squat, but I just want to give a little bit of like my theory of what happens. So obviously there's no boot. Let's pretend that the axle always sits straight like this. When you launch, you obviously have axle that's angle that's created. So let's make the angle like this, for example. Obviously, when you have angle, then you need more length. And when you have more length, let's say that this actually pulls out of the cup. And obviously, this can only go so far while being healthy, this causing it to bind. Obviously, also the angle causing it to bind. And by doing that, probably the shock of going up and back down will just cut it straight right there. Given that it was a welded diff, it did it to both sides instead of just breaking one side and letting the other side free spin or just putting all the load on one side and then having the other one get shock afterwards. I think it just broke it all together. So yeah, just really clean break on each one. The exact same type of failure. And what's interesting is that the length of the survived part basically is the same, even though that this one was on the inner cup and that one is on the outer cup. So it shows you right there, maybe some part of the material when they make it, it's just weak on those ends instead of breaking right in the center or towards like a third or 3/4 of the way or something. It's crazy, like that specific portion, which I thought was pretty interesting. Which actually, now that I think about it, this broke on the inner. So the inner won't have that much angle axle as much as the outer would. Actually, no, ignore what I'm saying. I'm not sure. I'd have to look under the car. I'm not really great with that stuff. But yeah, that's basically the axle carnage right there. And I want to show you something under the car as well that I just noticed. But I didn't notice it until actually a few minutes ago. Didn't even notice it out the track. But let me get cleaned up real quick and I'll show you under the car. I want to show you what I found there. Alright, if we're looking from this angle, everything looks normal. Obviously, we have lower control arm, all-wheel drive trailing arm, differential, solidly mounted to the chassis. You look over here, still nothing that bad. But if you zoom in to the back mount of the viscous coupler, don't you see a little something strange right there? Let me get a little closer. Yep, we found the weak point in our mount. Right there, we have it ripped off of the exhaust hinge. Ripped off right there. Our front mount is still 100% perfect, the one that we bolted and welded onto the chassis. Well, we welded the brace onto the plate and then bolted the plate sandwich style, one on top, one on bottom, to the actual chassis, the floorboard. That is holding up super sturdy. It's what gets the most shock anyway, since it is the front of the drivetrain. But look at, so it's showing us that the front is stronger than the rear, because look at the rear. Look at that right there. And that's nothing to do with the fabrication aspect. It's just, I guess it was a weak point and something that we're going to have to correct. Look at this side. I'm not sure from my angle if I can see if there's much crack. Let me lift the light. Is that a little better? You can see a small crack on that side right there. Nothing too crazy, but that side right there, it essentially ripped out the weld, which is exactly what Burton was telling us, that we didn't want to weld on the thin metal because of that exact reason. Because once you have so much torque, it'll start to break things like that. You can even see that the mount bent. It held it in place. Like, this is still solid onto the chassis, and we're not having any issues on that side, but oh, it's rubbing a little bit right there. I might have to knock it in a tad, but yeah, we found the weak point right there. That's crazy. I'm gonna have to probably make a brace just like I did for the front and do one onto the back. It's just gonna be a little trickier because the front hangs a little higher than the rear does. And I definitely want to do this on a lift again to make sure that I have a nice clearance and whatnot. Make sure everything lines up well, but there she is. She found the weak point in the drive shaft. There she is in all her glory. Broken axles right behind the ripped out mount for the viscous coupler. Like I said, the front one's holding up great. The rear one we're gonna have to do something for. Luckily, it has the rigidity of the rear differential to keep it from, if it was gonna do any damage, keep it from doing like insane damage. It's just the back mount. If the whole mount in and all, like the front and the rear would have broken, that would have given us a huge issue. But I think it just gave it enough play to rip it out of its spot, and then you know, maybe it contributed to breaking the axle. I don't think so, since at that point it's just rear differential engaged or not. I still think that it's because of the suspension that broke. But yeah, still a little crazy. Nice insight for us who are doing these conversions to actually make sure that we have very strong rear mounts as well as front mounts for the viscous coupler. These race cars aren't any joke, and although it only went 12-0 that day at the track, it's definitely a force to be reckoned with, and we have to show these cars a lot of respect, you know? It's our lives that we put in this. The Integra used to go very fast when it used to be running, and I caged the car because I want it to be safe. This obviously doesn't go nearly as fast, but we still need to take precautions, and that's kind of one thing that I wish I would have looked over again, but we decided just to kind of send it, and I'm going to have to reevaluate how we mount that. No, I am not saying that I'm not going to send it papi anymore, because that is the slogan and the catchphrase of the whole channel. We're going to always send it papi, but when it comes to important things like this, we might have to send it a little less. Motor stuff, I don't care if I blow a motor or transmission, break an axle or something, but this is safety. This is spinning at a very high speed under me at all times. So yeah, tomorrow morning I'm going to go to get some axles from O'Reilly. Shane ordered them because there weren't any at the store, and we're just going to do our warranty swap on that. So without further ado, I know you guys hate it when I say that, but I don't care. I'm going to skip forward to tomorrow morning, picking up the axles, and maybe I'll get a coffee or something and have a little more energy. It's like 12 o'clock at night right now. I just got off work and I'm pretty tired. Alright boys, we are in the heart of it. Pulling up to O'Reilly's right now. O'Rizzles. They have a new chicken place over here? Man. Alright, so yeah, we have the warranty for our axles here through O'Reilly's. Big shout out to Shane for ordering another set. About to swap these out real quick and put them new things on. Alright, skipping forward, I have both of the axles right here. I had to get them out of the boxes to put the old axles in. So that's pretty much ready, set to go. I am outside of Publix. I just got some food real quick before work. And I'm about to go into work in a few minutes, so I'm going to have to go head over there at the moment. But yeah, so that pretty much sums up checking out the car. I mean, we saw what we need to fix, obviously the axles, and we saw the more important thing, the actual rear diff, or the rear bracket for the viscous coupler needs to be modified. I think we're gonna end up doing what we did for the front brace, basically bolt it on sandwich-like with 4 bolts onto thick steel plates, and then run a plate along the bottom of it. That way it's nice and uniform just like the front, and obviously the back one, the one that broke, is the weak point, and the front had no issues whatsoever. So we're gonna keep on playing with that idea right there. I don't have anything concrete. Today is Wednesday, and this weekend there should be a hurricane that hits Florida. They say that it's going to be a category 2 or 3, so we're not exactly sure what's going to happen, but if it doesn't hit, hopefully we can go and get like a welder or something, borrow one. I still have John, if you're watching this right now, I have your MiG at the house. I have to take it back to you, but I want to get one with gas. I know we were talking about that, so we can actually get some nice welds onto there, especially since it's such a structural, strong, it needs structural integrity of the chassis for that right there. So anyways, I'm just rambling right now. I need to get that figured out maybe this week, if not next week, but we're definitely going to get that worked out soon. And like I said in the last video, we have some stuff planned out for the CRX just to have a lot of fun with it, so you guys are going to love that. Without further ado, that does sum up the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. You got to see what their the real problem was. And if you aren't already subscribed, make sure to hit the subscribe and notification bell. Let me know in the comment section below what you think, and if you haven't already liked the video, make sure to hit that button right there, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.